Hey, Mike. What? Who's got next?
What's good, y'all? It's your man, Hezo, and welcome back to the Blacktop, where I always got next, you feel me? We are back at it with another Hawks recap, and man, what a comeback. That was just incredible to watch. Hell of a game. I mean, Atlanta really looked dead in the water, but ended up coming back down from 23 to win the game. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Leave a like on the video. I am on my way to 700 subs. If y'all can help me get there, you know I always say I'll greatly appreciate it. In my last video, man, y'all absolutely killed it. Shout out to y'all. Appreciate all the love. It's actually been my best performing video to date so far on my channel, so I appreciate all the love that I got on that video. Thank you, man. I greatly appreciate it. I can't even describe, my words right now, so I appreciate y'all, man. And let's get right into it. As y'all can see, I got a lot more energy, man. Y'all can feel it, right? Because I can feel it. This game was just, it was a completely different team from the first half to the second half. And the first game, the first quarter started out, Atlanta just did not really look good. Well, in the first couple of minutes, they looked pretty good. They were attacking the rim, drawing contact. You can see they weren't settling as much for jumpers. But then, the Knicks went on a run. Atlanta went flat. They went absolutely flat. The bench unit came in, and it was just an absolute disaster. Atlanta started out the game 9 for 34. They were down 11 at the end of the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, man, they looked dead. Atlanta looked absolutely dead in the water. And a lot of that is on the bench unit. Nate McMillan, even though he made a great adjustment, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but this bench unit, we got to figure something else out with it, man, because whenever the starters come out of the game, and it's Trey, Aaron Holiday, Justin Holiday, Jalen Johnson, and then Clint Capella comes back into the game for a Kongu, that bench unit has not worked. It has been an absolute disaster, and we saw it again tonight. Atlanta goes down 23 points. Dejounte Murray, man, he was an absolute menace. He was a beast. He was doing everything he could to get Atlanta back into the game, and he really did it single-handedly. I mean, this dude was he was getting into passing lanes, getting steals, playing defense, playmaking, scoring. He was doing everything. He said, nah, man, we ain't going out like this again. Dejounte Murray carried this team tonight, and it was just an entirely different team in the second half. Atlanta goes, they're down 8. They climbed back into it after being down 23, led by Dejounte Murray. Trey came back into the game late in the second, well, not really late in the second quarter to really fuel the run with Dejounte, and it was really the entire, not really the entire, but the second half of the second quarter, once the starters came back in, it was Dejounte and Trey. Trey had I think a 10-point second quarter, and Dejounte had an 18-point second quarter to cut the deficit to 8 at halftime. Second half started, man, we just saw a completely different Atlanta team carried over from the end of the second quarter, and it was led by Dejounte, man. He was just doing everything he could, like I said, getting into pass lanes. He finished with 6 steals on the night, career high for Dejounte in points. I think he finished with 36 or 38, one of the two. I can't remember which one it was, but other guys, man, they were getting involved. Dre started to pick it up. I think he finished with 21 on the night, and the Knicks just completely collapsed. Let's just call it for what it is. They completely collapsed. They just looked dead in the water after Atlanta went on that run. I think a 12-0 run or so to start the second quarter, to start the second half. The Knicks, they were struggling for offense. They looked frustrated. They were jacking up shots, and you can tell that it was over. The Hawks had gotten into the heads of the Knicks, and it just was bad. It was a bad look for them. Jalen Brunson was pretty much, kind of neutralized the entire game. Dejounte did an excellent job on him. RJ Barrett had an okay game. Julius Randle had a terrible game, and really the Knicks bench just really didn't really do too much the entire second half. Atlanta outscored them, I think, like 64 to 34 in the second half, 65 to 34, something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but I do know that the Knicks scored 34 points in the second half as opposed to 65 in the first half. And credit to the Atlanta defense. And that's where I do want to give Nate credit, because once the second half started, I think towards maybe the end of the second quarter, they went into a 2-3 zone, and the Knicks just looked lost. They looked frustrated. They were not getting open shots, and Atlanta just took advantage. They were getting out in the transition. Dejounte was, getting, like I said, getting steals. They were getting stops. They were out hustling the Knicks, crashing the offensive glass. Shout out to John Collins, man. He did not have a great game offensively. I think he only finished with maybe 14 points, but he was doing a lot of other things, playing defense. He really shut down Julius Randle for the most part, And then he was just crashing the offensive glass, man, just out hustling the Knicks altogether. Double O was doing the same thing. Even Aaron Holiday, man, once he came into the game in the second half for Trey, once he got out after being smacked in the eye by Julius Randle, which I don't know how that wasn't reviewed, but it is what it is, man. I'm not going to talk about that. Aaron Holiday came in and really played it nice. He fit the role nice for Trey once Trey went out of the game. And that's kind of one thing I want to touch on is when I think that the adjustment that needs to be made for the bench unit is maybe sub Trey out early and let Dejounte play with Aaron Holiday. I know the floor spacing isn't as good, but you get a little bit bigger body because the small backcourt of Trey and Aaron Holiday just really has not worked. I've already said it through almost every single recap that AJ Griffin needs to be consistently in the rotation. I think they'll eventually figure it out with the bench unit, but shout out to this defense, man. They played absolutely incredible the entire second half, and that's really a huge reason why Atlanta was able to climb back into this game down 23 and then went up 18. That's like a 40-something point swing. Just absolutely incredible, man. You love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. Atlanta was doing such a great job of forcing turnovers the entire second half, and it was mostly led by Dejounte Murray just with 6 steals on the night. But I mean, I think the Knicks had like 9 turnovers just in the third quarter alone. And again, they just collapsed. They looked lost. Credit to the Atlanta defense, man. I can't even stress that enough because it was so great to finally see and so refreshing that maybe, just maybe, this is the turnaround that we need after dropping 2. Now, again, we're still early in the season, man. We are still early in the season, so I wouldn't even call it a turnaround, but this win just kind of stopped them from the collapse that we saw last season when Atlanta started out 3-1 and then lost like 7 of their next like 10 games or something crazy like that. I don't know exactly what it was, but with the tough schedule coming up here soon, this was a great win. So I want to get into my final takeaways, man. And number 1, Dejounte Murray. I mean, this dude was incredible. I've said it through the entire video. He was absolutely incredible. He led the way for the Hawks the entire game. I don't really need to dive into more on him. I've already touched on it the entire video. Number 2 was the defense. And credit to Nate for making the adjustment to go to his zone defense in the second half because it took the Knicks out of their rhythm. They didn't know how to attack it. Atlanta was closing out on shooters, forcing turnovers, getting into passing lanes, and it was just an excellent adjustment for Nate. And finally, he made an adjustment that worked for the team to come out with the win. Tom Thibodeau got out coached. He got out coached in this one because he didn't know how to make adjustments on Dejounte Murray the entire second half. And credit to Nate, man. I can't stress that enough. I've criticized him these first couple recaps, but I got to give him credit in this one because it was an entirely different Hawks team that we saw in the second half. Which leads me to my next point. The Knicks collapse. I mean, they just looked completely lost in the second half. They looked frustrated. They just weren't playing with energy. They were getting out hustled. Atlanta was just killing them on the glass. They weren't attacking the glass. They were kind of playing, not really ISO ball, but they were just putting up bad shots. I mean, their guys didn't step up. Julius Randle didn't step up. JB didn't step up. When they needed a bucket, they didn't know who to turn to. And again, you have to credit the Atlanta defense for that. But just an absolute collapse for the Knicks. And that's very frustrating if you're a Knicks fan because Thibodeau just did not make adjustments. And I was loving it. I absolutely love it. I hate the Knicks. I'm sorry, Knicks fans. I hate the Knicks, even though I have Knicks jerseys and Knicks gear. That's only because I've been a Melo fan. Y'all know that by now if y'all been, around my channel for as long as I've been here. And my final point of the video, man, is the bench unit. They played absolutely horrible in the first half. Really they didn't play great the entire game. Double O played pretty nice, even with his shoulder injury. Aaron Holiday had a nice game. He really stepped up for Trey in that second half once he went out with his eye injury, which hopefully Trey would be good for Saturday against the Pelicans. I think he will be. But Aaron Holiday really stepped up. Justin Holiday didn't do too much. Jalen Johnson didn't really do anything at all. And at some point, Nate's going to have to figure this bench rotation out because we see, again, I touched on it earlier in the video, it just has not worked. He has to come out with a different mindset and a different lineup, especially when you start to play contending teams like the Bucks, like the Celtics, like the Pelicans that we face on Saturday, like the Sixers, you have to go out with a different rotation because we've seen this rotation, man. It hasn't worked. It has not worked. We need to figure it out. AJ Griffin, I can't stress it anymore. I'm tired of talking about it. He has to get into the rotation until at least Bogdanovich comes back. Once Bogey comes back, I feel like Atlanta will be a much better team offensively. Hopefully it's soon. I can't even stress that enough. I hope he's back within the next week or so. I'm gonna pretty much leave it there, man. That is pretty much all I have for this recap. There's a couple other things that I didn't really touch on. I really want to touch a little bit more on JC and his struggles offensively, but I'm not worried about that. I think he is going to get it going eventually offensively. He has struggled shooting the long ball, which I touched on in my last video. Don't worry about JC, man. He's going to get going. DeAndre Hunter had a nice game from 3 tonight. We got a tough stretch of games coming up. We have the Pelicans on Saturday, and I think we have the Sixers in back-to-back games. We are sitting at 5-3. We close out this road trip 3-2, which you can't be too mad about that. If you can come out with a road trip with a winning record, that is great. Really could have been 4-1 if they would have closed it out against Milwaukee. It didn't happen. It is what it is. We move on. We make adjustments, and we really just regroup. You got off the road trip with a winning record. Let's get back home and let's get this dub on Saturday against the Pelicans. Leave your thoughts down in the comments. What did y'all think about this game? Let me know what y'all's thoughts are on the comeback. What y'all think about the Knicks collapse? All that type of stuff. I want to hear from Knicks fans as well. If y'all do watch this video, leave a like on the video, and I will catch y'all next episode.